sides start itching. It's like what? Like
Okay, okay.
about 40 minutes.
Hey guys, welcome to another Complete Developer Raw. As you, if you got here early, already heard us back and forth. We're still figuring out how to stop the microphones before we actually start broadcasting. So you probably heard Will. I don't know. I don't think his audio is on this screen. So you're listening to Will and BJ. You're about to see us now. And as you guys can see, actually I should look over. No, that was right there. As you guys can see, Will is right there. Let's see. We finally got OBS to work with us. Spent several hours this past week looking into it, trying to figure out what was going on. Turns out it's because I'm working on my laptop and it's got the two different what's the word I'm looking for?
Video cards.
Yeah, video cards. Thank you. That it's trading off between. I still can't get it to do a window capture. It's really janky. I have like the Will is on the full screen on my laptop screen. I'm capturing that screen and then cutting it down to just him. So it's janky, but it's working, and that's good for now. You know, and I just realized you're slightly off there. I'm gonna have to fix that. For all the nitpicky people out there like me, I can see one little thing. I may put like some kind of divider here, here between us, so it doesn't just like stop yours and start mine. So Will's looking at me funny because he can't see it. For some reason, I am unable to share that particular screen with him. If you notice him getting darker, it's because, whoops. See, I can't do that. So, as you guys can see, I tried to share it, and wait, I might be able to. Let me see something. Nope.
I'm very puzzled by this whole thing. Like, the way that you're having to describe what's going on. It's like trying to describe a chicken without using any adjectives.
The audience is seeing it, so after this you should come back and watch the video because it'll make a lot more sense what I'm doing and saying. Oh, it's really weird. I just looked over at the Facebook screen and you're talking, but you're not talking now. So anyways, so now that we got that kind of worked out and told you all about it, I've had an adventurous week to say the least. My fridge went out on Monday. I went out to get something out of the garage, and then I went to go get a beer out of the fridge. By the way,
as you do.
Yes. Well, I found one of my favorite beers, Einstock, and this is like my favorite style of beer too. It's a Doppelbock. So I've been telling everybody I'm drinking Einstock Doppelbock, which is just fun to say.
You should drink it with Spock and The Rock. On the dock, just to get the whole Dr. Seuss effect. Yeah, get the whole Dr. Seuss thing going.
So that happened. That happened Monday. Before I was going to work on my final, sort of between work and my final, I was actually going to get a beer to have with dinner, and then I was going to sit down at the computer and work on my final. And I ended up taking all the stuff out of the fridge and putting it into my garage because it was colder in the garage than the fridge. Got someone to come out and fix it though, so it's working now. Then as I was working on my final, my keyboard and mouse and speakers all just stopped working. Apparently I plugged in the wrong power cable to the USB hub, and so yeah, that fried all my peripherals. Except for my webcam that is like 14 years old or something. I don't know. It's ancient.
Yeah, nothing else has killed it, so it's just not going to die.
Yeah. Well, it was built back when they built things to last.
Was it made by Nokia?
Logitech.
Okay.
So, other than that, I'm still unpacking. You can probably see some boxes. I tried to move them all out of the way when we started, so that you couldn't see it. I was hoping there would be a bookshelf behind me, but I did not get finished putting that together beforehand. So we're gonna have some more echo this week in the recording. So, what's going on with you, man?
Well, I'm trying to finish up the last of my hardware upgrades on my computer. So, a while back, I added, or I swapped out hard drives and all that stuff. But the box has only got 2 places for like the big internal drives, and then it's got a place you can mount like a 3.5-inch one inside the case. And I didn't do that. I just kind of mounted the 3.5-inch one with the other one, and so I've actually got another 4 terabyte drive to put in the box, but it's going to be a pain. So I've been putting that off. I've got to put a power supply in my old box and put the old hard drives back in it, so that goes to your house for you to have a backup server / whatever else we need to do with it. And I also have a server over here that I've got to get rid of, and possibly cannibalize some parts out of. And so I'm going to probably just take it to like Computer Renaissance. I'm going to take all 3 boxes and let them do all the stuff, and so it'll be done. Mm-hmm. I'm just not looking forward to messing with hardware this weekend.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, I had the book. That's the other thing I've got going on is the book. That's out now-ish. I had a large publisher contact me about, possibly wanting to expand it and make a book that's published through them. So I've got to figure out what that looks like, and we're going back and forth on that stuff. And then I'm doing all kinds of architecture stuff at work. So, it's just constant stuff, just trying to finish everything. Like I think next Thursday I do a half day, and then I'm off until the new year.
Nice. And
so I'm trying to get everything done before, I leave work, or before I turn the remote connection off next Thursday.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll be working through Friday next week, and then I'll be off the week of Christmas, and then back after New Year's, I guess. So yeah, so I guess a day and a half more than you before I get to take off. So that's cool.
Yeah. And
I'm turning off all of my notifications from work on my phone and everything. No, I'm off during that time. So
yeah, I won't be really turning them off. I'll just not be there, and I won't be doing anything unless there's an emergency.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hopefully there won't be, but that's kind of the manager type thing. So, other than that, I've got my full list of stuff I'm going to do over Christmas break. I got a bunch of stuff I want to do inside the house here, and get stuff done. I don't sit still well, so I've got a lot on the list. I actually made made like a little project for it, and it
sounds like something you do.
Yeah. So it's not all these things, not all these things are going to get done, but I have 91 items on it. So just, a lot of stuff for the podcast, a lot of, equipment stuff, moving stuff, cleaning stuff, getting stuff organized, just getting rid of dumb in various places, stuff on the website.
That's because we've got a lot of stuff to catch up on website work. I'm glad you're doing that, because I am not going to have my family will be here most of the time I'm off, and I don't see them very often, so I will not have a lot of time to work on it. So that's cool. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. My free time over the holidays, I will be working on my talk for Code Mash, so that'll be cool. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into some questions.
Okay. The first question we got is there currently a backlash against object-oriented programming? And I guess I would answer that there isn't exactly a backlash. It's more like we've realized that it only takes us so far on stuff, and we've also realized some of the costs. When I was learning to do development, Moore's law was still very much in effect. Things would speed up tremendously between in a 2-year period of time. And so when you're making mistakes with OOP, you were getting away with it because faster hardware was coming out. Mm-hmm. So by the time your stuff was in production, things were twice as fast anyway. And so it wasn't getting noticed. Now it's not quite at that level. It's more like you get more threads, you get more cores, that kind of stuff. And OOP starts to kind of run into the wall with that. The other thing is all the functional programming stuff is kind of getting a lot more traction. And so people are finding that works well for a lot of situations that OOP would have never been involved in anyway.
Well, what I was discussing with another developer at work, because he when he started, it was procedural, and he learned OOP on the job, and now he's learning some functional stuff. And we were talking about it. I was like, it's like object-oriented programming solved a lot of the issues that people had with procedural programming. Thank you. But now you've got functional coming in, and it's fixing, or people are perceiving it to fix a lot of the problems with object-oriented. Because I was explaining to him that the way I code, I try to write functional first. Like my code hierarchy goes functional. You guys can't see. Sorry. It goes functional, and then object-oriented, and then procedural, and then set-based. But I don't really write much SQL.
Yeah, I write a ton of it. I think the other thing too is, procedural was good for understanding how the computer's doing the work.
Yeah.
And then we got object oriented, and we kept on rolling with that, and we got domain driven design, and then we got functional. And a lot of this is the understanding that vocabulary is technology.
Mm-hmm. So
we developed a vocabulary around how objects interact and how those pieces fit together that we didn't have before. It's kind of like, I don't know that functional could have taken off without OOP being where it was. It's kind of like saying, you can build a rocket, but you don't have a word for space.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
not a backlash.
Yeah.
Just, an evolution.
The next question is, I've left a review. How do I get a water bottle? We got this something similar to this in an email not that long ago, and it reminded me that we hadn't actually pulled anything from our iTunes reviews, because that's where this particular person left it. And I thought this was important because I did kind of want to address this idea. When we first started, we were desperate for comments, reviews, emails, tweets, all that sort of stuff. But now we have a plethora. We've got a lot to choose from. It does not mean we are not going to get to your comment or anything. Honestly, sending this email got our attention. For this particular person, I don't know if it would work again, but that is one way to do it. Usually when we're doing this, we start off looking for something related to the episode that we're recording, and then we look for stuff people have said. Like I said, I hadn't looked at iTunes, so we have a lot of iTunes reviews. Like for a while there, we didn't get any, and so I kind of stopped looking there. And then over the last couple of months, we've gotten quite a few. So it's really awesome. The way to get a water bottle is to have us read it on the show. That's for sure. But the big thing is, leave us something we can talk about. Ask a question. I don't want to say complain about things because that sounds bad, but leave us something that we can have a conversation about, and we're more likely to choose that. Also, meeting us in person helps. at the different conferences we go to. I know that's not possible for everyone, but we are more likely to read your comment if that happens. Also, guys, I did want to point one thing out. Will and I don't make any money from this. This is actually we spend money on this. This is
a fair bit.
Yeah, this is our hobby, and so all the stuff that we give out at conferences, the water bottles, that all comes from our pockets. We don't have advertisers. We're working on getting some advertisers, but even with them, we're not going to be making money with it. We're just hoping to break even. So
or just to bleed a little slower.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm asking is be a little lenient with us on this, as we're, the audio and the podcasting side we're learning this side too, and we're gonna try to give everybody something, if at a conference or whatnot, stickers, things like that. But I guess just understand that this is our hobby, so we're doing the best we can. Yes. Next question.
Yeah, so the next one is, have you ever realized it's time to start looking for a new job? And yes, I have. Quite a few times. Now, I will tell you that sometimes the answer to that is not quite what you think. So, for instance, you may go, it's time to start looking for a new job, but you're actually better off trying to change the job you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing a lot more of speccing stuff out, doing architecture stuff, getting into those discussions, and got moved up because of that, because I was getting kind of limited and a little bit bored where I was. And, of course, they cranked up the difficulty on me, and I'm fine now. But you can have that realization, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to quit your job and go somewhere else, right? It's change your job or change your job.
Mm-hmm.
Or either meaning of that term. So
I haven't so much had it in development, because I've only been doing this for a few years.
Yeah, you can't exactly say that because you only got the one job.
Yeah. But in other areas, I have had this. I remember when I was in grad school for psychology, I was getting a master's in behavior analysis, working for a company as a behavior specialist, kind of the bachelor's level version of that. And the company got bought out, and they kind of restructured things, and I got put into more of a management role. It was sort of a lateral transfer. I didn't get promoted. It was like the same pay grade and things, but I was in charge of staffing and things like that. I'm like, I had no desire to do that. I had no training in that, but I was the lowest man on the totem when it came to the behavior specialist, so I was the one to get transferred. I think that lasted about 3 weeks, maybe a month, and I was like, it's time to go. This is not what I want to do. And what really got me was when I was, like I said, I was in grad school, and they weren't paying for it, but they were letting me take classes during the day and stuff because they had plans on me coming on as a behavior analyst when I finished. And I got in trouble for being in class. And I'm like, yeah, it's time to go.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but that it happens no matter what field you're in, really. So, but guys, if you haven't already checked it out, the episode that came out today is Objections to Unit Testing. Testing code isn't easy. You have to think about all the different ways that your code can go wrong and then write tests to cover them. You end up writing more test code than functional code. And this takes time and slows down sort of your initial development. With all that, though, unit tests reduce the overall time and cost of developing and maintaining software by finding bugs and issues earlier in the process. there's several objections that you may hear from fellow developers, managers, and others when trying to introduce or promote writing unit tests. In the episode, we discuss several of the common objections that developers face when encouraging unit testing and how to overcome them.
Yeah, I just want to throw this thing out there on that too, is that, you know, this comes from both of our lived experiences, and literally we were having very similar conversations about unit tests. Both of us were in our separate jobs when this came up, like, you know, like just weeks apart. So it's pretty widespread. So this will be a really valuable episode, I think, for a lot of people. So the episode coming up next week is where we discuss dark patterns in UI development. Now, we live in a society where people are praised for being clever. Whether it's in finding better ways to do stuff or simply being witty, being clever is lauded in our society. However, sometimes people are a little too clever and they start edging into behavior that borders on unethical. Dark UI patterns are a really good example of this in the web space. Dark patterns are used to get users to do things that they didn't intend to do through deception and nefarious means. In this episode, we discuss some dark patterns you should be avoiding if you're building websites, along with what to do instead. And I guess that pretty much wraps that up.
Yep. So guys, leave us a comment with your thoughts on the our remote thing. This is working a lot better for both of us, with me living about an hour or so away. But it took a little bit of trickery to get together. There's probably some echo coming from my office. I know I'm still putting things together. Like I said, I was hoping to have a bookshelf behind me, but just, you know, didn't get that finished. Yeah, it's sitting over half finished, out of view, so you guys can't see it. But yeah, we're gonna hop off here and get to recording an episode, and we will talk to you guys next week.